Hello, nerdy romantics. Today we are talking, of course, Captain America. Captain America Brave New World. It came out in February, and as of this recording, it is not on Disney Plus yet. So today we're going to talk all about Captain America Brave New World. We are going to do some spoilers, y'all. Okay? So, spoiler alert. Gosh. So, I'm so happy to have all my guests. So I wanted to talk about this ever since I saw it in February, and now I didn't write any notes down. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. Y'all know how I do. So stay tuned as we talk Captain America Brave New World.
This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
Everybody, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Always good to be here.
I'm doing
and
great
we matched
as well.
today.
Yes, I love this. So this was the shirt I wore to when I went to see it in the theater. I was like, I had to wear a Captain America shirt. I was just like, oh, and I think everybody here saw it. Did you see it in the theater, Perry?
Yep, I saw it in the theater, and I'm pretty sure I also wore my Captain America t-shirt to see it in the theater. Although I did not plan to wear it today, it just happened to be in what I was wearing when we jumped on.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So I'm so excited. I forgot to mention everybody. I've got Marcie, guest host, recurring guest host, and I have Perry, recurring guest host with me on today.
Hi.
We may have Staci a little bit later. And basically, we're talking everything about Captain America Brave New World. But since I was talking about the theater, Marcie, how about you? I wanted to know about the theater experience with y'all. First off, did anybody at your showing get the popcorn thing with the shield? Had one person do that. I saw it. I
No.
was like, yes. I was like, oh my gosh, because that's like a $20 thing or $25 thing. I was like, oh my gosh. There's fans and there are fans. I mean, they're like super fans out there. It's amazing. It's just totally amazing.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see that. I mean, your listeners may or may not remember that I'm actually based in Japan, so we didn't have anything like that over in the theater here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do y'all have any goodies or anything that comes out when these movies come out?
It's not probably not as common, but every now and then there's some things like I've got when I went to see Endgame, we got like these little tiny like bobblehead, not like bobblehead, but they're like these little tiny like rolling figures type of thing.
Yeah.
Like you put them on and they kind of like roll from side to side. And so we got my wife and I, we both went together, so we got a Cap one and a Thor one with our tickets. They also gave us some stickers too. Sometimes stickers are pretty common. When I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, we got like these paper masks that put on, which my kids got a big kick out of those before they basically tore them up.
Oh, of course. I love that. I mean, they had so much merch, and they had in my theater, they had an actual section, like a store kind of carousel kind of thing, not a carousel, but you know what I mean, like a mini aisle that had all this Captain America stuff on it, and I was like, whoa, that's a lot.
We usually
going
have
on.
that. Our theaters have like a permanent fixture in there. It's like a small little gift shop type thing, and they usually have whatever's playing. They've got merchandise related to it.
Yeah,
I didn't see a whole lot this time around. Mostly it's things like plastic folders, which I don't really care about, but if it was something like a keychain or something like that, I might have bought it.
Yeah, I've seen merchandise or other things. Like I got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle like pins. They actually had pins for all four of the things. But when we went, I guess almost before it was gonna roll out of theaters, so there weren't that many people in the theater with us. I think, including my mom and myself, there were four of us. in the whole theater.
Wow.
And there wasn't like a whole lot of merch placed anywhere. And they didn't ask us if we wanted anything like
Right.
special when we were at the concession stand either.
Wow. But yeah, I bet that was a nice viewing experience though. A whole theater is just the four of
Yeah.
y'all, but it was awesome.
It was, I mean, true fans because we were the only ones there. And the way their theater was situated, we actually had a two-seater. So it was just my mother and I in our own little section in the dark, like watching the movie. So it felt really intimate. It was pretty fun.
Oh, that's
Nice.
neat. Yeah, that is neat. So, okay, obviously, I had to go see it. I saw it the first day it came out. I didn't know that I was getting an IMAX ticket until after I had gotten the ticket. I was just looking at the time, and then I saw the price of the ticket. I said, "Wait a minute." And then I said, "Oh, I'm seeing this in IMAX." So, but I guess this is the first. No, Wakanda Forever was the first movie I saw in the theater. So I've seen a couple of movies in the theaters post pandemic, but very few. So it's one of those kind of events for me. I'm sorry, we're talking about a theater experience. Let's actually get into this movie and start talking about the movie, y'all. First thing I want to talk about though with this movie is the story pacing of this movie and what y'all thought about the pacing of the movie. Marcie, what do you think?
I feel like it was weirdly paced. Like I feel like it was slow and then it really rushed to the end. And I feel like along the way we probably could have been a little tighter in terms of the storytelling. I feel like they were trying to communicate a lot of things and bring in a lot of background, and I feel like they were trying to like craft the narrative, and I'm usually not somebody who dislikes that. But in this case, I do feel like there were parts where I was like, this could have been faster, or I don't know that I necessarily needed this scene to last this long to get this point across. So I do think compared to some other ones where I felt like the flow was pretty steady from the beginning to the end. I do think this one lagged a little bit and then picked up at the end, and then yeah, I feel like the pacing was a little off.
Mhm.
I feel like the pacing was a little off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Stacy, welcome. We already said that you were coming on. So I
I'm glad to do
manifested
it.
you. Yes. I manifested you on here. So Stacy, first off, did you end up seeing Captain America? Did you end up seeing it all the way through or
Yes, I did.
did you? Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that, y'all, because as I said earlier, this is not on Disney Plus yet, and I was trying to wait for it to get to Disney Plus. But anyway, we're talking about story pacing, and what did you think of the pacing of it? Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, I watched it because of you.
Okay.
I mean, I've kind of lost my need to watch the Marvel movies. I mean, before I was like, okay, I'm really into the next one. I'm ready for the next one. And now it's like, okay, I can see it or not.
Hmm.
And from this movie, the overall, I kind of saw a lot of stuff coming. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't
Yeah.
anything that was surprising for me for the movie, really. And maybe because I've heard some of the hype, but I mean, I knew certain things was going to come into it, and I wasn't even trying to look for it, but people, put stuff out there like, okay, so you can't help it if you don't watch stuff right away. But I do think, like I said about maybe the pacing at times might have been a little bit slow, but I think this character and well, I guess for this character, I guess they're trying to build momentum that he is going to be Captain America. And I mean, granted, I have no idea what's supposed to be coming down the line, or they're bringing back people, or anything like that. And he is different from the original Captain America because he hasn't taken the serum. So when you're seeing him
Yep.
doing the stuff, I am a little bit more impressed because he hasn't taken any of the serum. So he is super without being super. But the overall pace of it, And I think they needed so many things in the storyline about, bring about I forgot the character about, the black Captain America, the first black Captain America,
Isaiah.
who Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah
Um,
Bradley.
and I like the fact that they did pull that in and go into a little bit more detail on that because I didn't really know, but if that was part of like the whole comic stuff, I'm not a comic book reader for any of that. So it was part of it, that's great. And if it was part, that was even better that they actually added him to it and his history about how he was treated versus how Captain America was. How the one, was it Rogers, was treated. So I'm glad
Yes,
they had
Steve.
that in there. But like, I haven't heard what everybody said. But I mean, overall, it's like I wasn't really high expectations, but it was better than I thought it would be. I have to admit that.
Okay.
It was better than I thought. Because I mean, I was like, okay, because I saw, was it Falcon
The Winter Soldier, yeah.
and the Winter Soldier, and
Yeah.
then was that the Disney Plus, one of the seasons of Disney Plus thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yes.
mean, I watched it, but I was like, okay. I was so I was like, okay, I wasn't really into. I mean, I'll be honest, y'all. WandaVision was like that was it, and Agatha all along would be number two. And then I wasn't really
Yeah.
expecting much for this, but I was like, okay, this was better than I thought it was going to be, and I did end up enjoying it. But overall, the pacing, it wasn't like boom, 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 boom like we've seen in other Marvel stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Perry, what about you? What did you think about story pacing?
Yeah, I dug the movie a lot, although I do co-sign there was some odd pacing, and I think a lot of that is down to this movie went through a lot of reshoots. Apparently, it got some negative test screenings, and then Marvel
Okay.
scrambled to do some reshoots and to alter some things, which I don't know. I'm curious what it would have looked like originally. I think a lot has been made about Marvel and their reshoots lately, and I think that they're probably focusing a little bit too much on the focus group and test screening
Mm-hmm.
things, where I think they should just kind of let things stand and just take a chance on it and see how it works out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to echo a lot of what's said about, and that's why I put story pacing first. When usually I ask y'all, hey, how did you come about this? So, Stacy, I'm glad you reminded me. Yes, Yvonne told me, right? But that was my issue with it. And for this movie to, and I'm wondering about the kind of reshoots and about them trying to please the audience and or please the loud people on social media, I'm thinking, and them doing reshoots. I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. But as you're saying that, but yes, the pacing was very odd for me. And the pacing was odd because it seemed slow in the beginning, just like Marcie said. And then action ramped up really, it ramped up kind of in the middle when we saw Red Hulk and when we saw all of what was going on there. And then it kind of just sped to the end real fast. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. What are you doing here to me? Are you trying to give me whiplash or what? I mean, exactly what's going on here? And this will kind of go into our next topic, which is the Eternals. I think they put too much into this movie, in my opinion. This is just my opinion on it. And maybe it's because I did watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think the pacing on that show was great. That pacing worked for me as a story and how they developed that story and how in the beginning he was like, I don't want to pick up this shield. I already know that Steve gave me this shield. I really don't want to pick this shield up. I'm going to give it to a museum. And then when museum gives it to John Walker, is that who it is? Okay. So when they give it to him and then he's not happy, but he's like, well, I'm just going to keep going with it. That whole story and that whole story arc of him going from not wanting to be Captain America to being Captain America really just endears you to him being Captain America. At the end, you're just like, dude, be Captain America, please. Like, pick up the shield. I want to see you do it, right? So to go from that to then go in this story, now we're in it. He is Captain America, and we're seeing him, doing amazing things without superpowers. He's you know taking on all of whatever's going on in the world too, all the stuff that's being said about him, which I think to me that part was pretty good. I'm so glad that they put the social part of that in there, because that's exactly what's going on out in the real world outside. People are talking about Captain America being a black man, and why is Captain America a black man? Which that's part of some controversy we'll talk about. But I think because they tried to put too much stuff in it, i.e., the Eternals, and I have my own feeling about it. So Perry, I know you're gonna dog me on this because I know there's comic book stuff there. So yeah, I got some issues. I just think they put too much into this, really, in my opinion.
Okay, maybe I missed something. So the Eternals was the only part of it was the island, the guy,
The island, yeah. That was it.
What?
That was it. That was the island. The island and them going to the island and blah blah blah. And
I mean,
so people are looking and they're like, okay, that's supposed to be from the Eternals. So it's making me think Eternals. So we're bringing Eternals in, and I was just not happy with that movie. That's all.
I mean, I didn't know that, so I didn't have any problems with the island because I didn't know that was Eternals, but that's just because I don't know canon, so I didn't have a problem with that as much. I do think, going back to your casting part, that I feel like part of the slowness, and please understand that I don't have anything personal against Harrison Ford, but he moved slow, he talked slow, and I think unfortunately part of the pacing came from trying to keep up with the pacing of the actor and the delivery that the actor was given, and you can't go faster than your actor's going, and I feel like that slowed it down some. And I understand that we were looking for someone who had the gravitas to be the president, and I understand that we needed him to look tortured, and I get it. But I feel like, to me, that was part of what was dragging it. Because, to be honest, even when we were doing the Isaiah older Captain America, even his pacing was moving with the part of his story that he was supposed to be driving, but it really dragged every time we had to account for Harrison Ford's presence in the scene or in the storyline. I feel like, to me, that was part of it, more than the island, more than I feel like the scenes where we had him, I feel like everyone else had to adjust, and then I think it was weird. And again, I don't have anything against him as an actor. I'm a fan of his previous works, but in this particular movie, I don't know that he would have been, having seen his performance, I don't know that he was the right choice for the character in total, and especially if we're going to continue to see, Red Hulk, and in that, I don't know if he can. I don't know if I don't think it's the best fit for it in terms of continuity. It was. I think he kind of drug the whole thing down. Thank you.
So, Carrie, question for you, because I actually don't know where Red Hulk fits into Captain America's story. And I have not seen She-Hulk, but I thought that Red Hulk might have been on She-Hulk. Is that true, or am I making that up?
No, I think you might be conflating maybe Red Hulk with the Abomination, who was Tim Roth's character from The Incredible Hulk. And so he was in that, and Mark Ruffalo also popped up in She-Hulk as well. There was no Red Hulk in that, though.
Okay.
And he doesn't really tie into Captain America so much. It's just more they just wanted to. In fact, this movie, it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like a sequel to The Incredible Hulk in a lot of ways, because we're bringing back the leader, we're bringing back Ross again, we're bringing back Betty again. We haven't seen her since The Incredible Hulk 2. So that was all kind of interesting. I thought that was, and some of that is because, and I don't know how true this is, but there's always been this kind of speculation that Marvel can't do a direct Hulk film because Universal has the rights to the Hulk movies. So Marvel has the
Oh,
rights to
I
the
thought.
character, but if they want to
Okay.
do a Hulk movie, they have to involve Universal. Is kind of like, I don't know how
Okay.
true that is, but that's been the speculation for years. So if you go back to the Incredible Hulk, that was actually distributed by Universal.
Universal. It was. Yeah. It wasn't
Yeah,
Marvel.
and that was before the Disney buyout and everything too.
Yeah.
Just two things I wanted to piggyback off of what you guys said. The Tiamat stuff from the Eternals, I thought that was great. I didn't mind that. It's, it was this big thing that happened in Eternals. I didn't care much for Eternals as a movie myself, but you're gonna have,
Neither.
a big ass space monster plop down in the middle of the Arctic, and you're dealing with a shared continuity. It's kind of something you might want to address in the future. And I thought they found a really interesting way to use that as the back door to introduce adamantium into the MCU. So all that I was pretty cool of, and
True.
I like the idea of adamantium being like this kind of new geopolitical football that's emerged out on I loved all the geopolitical stuff in this, and I feel like that's actually where the film's pacing problems and weaknesses come in, is when they just got distracted from that stuff. As for Harrison Ford, I was skeptical going in with him, but I had the different reaction from Marcie. I actually thought he did a really good job. I really liked him in this. I was expecting him to kind of sleepwalk through it, but I thought he was pretty on point for Ross, and the whole idea that this is a Ross who is trying to contain himself a little bit more and is trying to like play for the cameras a little bit more. I felt like that's where a lot of his slower pacing really kind of came in. I will say though, the reason we got Harrison Ford in the first place is because William Hurt, who had played him in the other movies, passed away, and
Yeah.
I kind of wish that they had, as much as I did like Ford, I do kind of wish that they had went with Sam Elliott, who played him in Ang Lee's Hulk film, because he's still kicking, and I think he's like the perfect.
Oh,
Maybe that's what it was. I was hoping it was someone else.
I
Maybe that's
forgot
what it
about
was.
Ang Lee's film. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if he could have gotten Sam Elliott, I think it would have been a better choice. But I
That
I
would have
liked
been a
what
better
Ford.
choice.
Yeah, but I like what Ford brought to the role.
Sorry. Yeah. Staci, how about you? What did you think about all the other stuff other than Captain America in Captain America?
Well, I mean, when you said about the and the island, I thought that was a great. I thought that was a great way to bring that back in, because from the Elementals, I always thought not the Elementals. What are they called? The
Eternals.
Eternal.
Yeah.
As you tell, I really don't pay attention to the movie. Called Elementals versus
I
Eternal.
hated that movie.
But I watched,
I'm sorry,
but I did watch the movie, and I always thought, so there's just a big godlike creature frozen, on Earth somewhere, and no one's mentioned it, and so now they did
Yeah.
mention it. So I wasn't
That's true.
mad at it, because I was like, so no one's gonna mention that. That's just sitting out there. What was this on the timeline? Because I had not seen it since watching that. And we talk about, they brought up, adamantium and then vibranium, and they were talking about, that isolationist country, and I was like, trying to steal from them by that. Yeah, every time they mentioned it, they never said Wakanda, but they were referring to Wakanda every time they mentioned, we can't get vibranium because one of the countries, I was like, you just every time they said that, it just pisses me off a little bit. And I was like, we saw what you were trying to do in Wakanda forever, that you were doing all those things and, trying to, destabilize the government, but they're the isolationist country. And I just don't, that irked me every time they said that.
I
But
agree.
I thought, when they
Agreed.
talked about the new substance and all that, and isn't that the substance that's for
Wolverine.
I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay, are they
Yeah.
gonna actually bring in,
The crossover,
the
yeah.
X-Men, the X-Men to it? So, and if this is where they just find it, or this is the first time it's on this planet, or they've had stuff before, because where is Wolverine on the timeline if his skeleton is made? I mean, I was just thinking of stuff like that. Where's it on the timeline? Because I thought, is he? Because I knew originally it was bone, and then they put that, put it on his bone.
Right.
So
Right.
where are we on the timeline with the X-Men then?
Right, but they had him in a lab, so they had already been
So they had to have
testing
it. So
with
they had to have it.
adamantium before then.
Well,
So
no,
it
he was that was a Wolverine from a different universe, so it's not the same.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
was like,
all the X-Men characters we've seen so far, Professor X and Multiverse of Madness. We saw Beast at the end of the Marvels, and now
Yep.
Hugh Jackman again as Wolverine, and Deadpool and Wolverine, and Deadpool himself. All of them, they're from the other universes. So in the MCU
Right.
universe proper, this core universe, the Prime timeline, like we haven't seen any of the X-Men yet.
Yeah, because this is what Universe 834 and X-Men is in Universe 619 or some crazy numbers that they were talking about. That was in Multiverse of Madness when they started talking about the you're in this world and then they're in this world.
I don't know which world or universe everybody's coming in from.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, just bringing that kind of stuff in, and I was like, oh, I remember that reference. I liked that about it. Just for the fact that to me, this was like a big tie-in movie. Let's tie this in, let's tie that in, let's tie this, and we might have something unique that could bring into the Marvel universe. But it seemed like it tried to tie in a whole lot of different things that we're hearing, because we were seeing that from and I'm going to say Elementals again.
Eternals.
Yeah. And they were bringing this from the X-Men and all that, and it's like, oh, you're bringing all this other stuff. What's going to be happening next? So I'm not sure if this movie feels like a tie-in or introductory to something else. But for somebody who's watched, knows the whole whatever the roadmap that Marvel's trying to use, maybe can tell us more. But for me, it feels like a tie-in movie.
So I'm going to agree with you there. It feels like a tie-in movie. And, I said this when Perry and I were talking about the Marvel movies from 2023, and I was talking about the Marvels. I felt like the Marvels was a tie-in movie as well. And, it's just interesting which movies are tie-ins. And I guess this is going to kind of come into some of the controversy a little bit, and I just have a personal feeling. I'm like, so why did you make the movie since Wakanda forever, since Black Panther, you made this movie starring this Black superhero? Why did you make that one the tie-in, right? And then why did you make the Marvels tie-in where the main cast is mostly women? I mean, why are we doing this? But maybe that's just me being personal and me taking it a little too personal. But you do have to have kind of a tie-in somewhere. I've been trying to go back and watch the Multiverse Saga and kind of see where things land. Well, actually, right before this at Comic-Con, we had Dr. Doom revealed. And then right after this, we see Daredevil. But for the movie part of it, we see Avengers Doomsday. We see that poster come out, little teasers of who's coming out there. So it's like, okay, see what you're doing. You're trying to say, okay, this is like the start of the tie-in for the rest of this. This is how we start to get these folks here. For those who haven't been watching the Multiverse Saga, because that's another thing, right? So after Avengers Endgame, or I wouldn't say even necessarily after Endgame, because Marcie mentioned WandaVision, that got a lot of high ratings, good ratings. That's one of the beginning things in the Multiverse Saga. And then Loki, that got a lot of play too. But kind of after that, people are feeling like Staci a little bit. They're falling off a little bit, So some of these movies kind of here, especially the Captain America one with all the controversy surrounding it, and also because it's Captain America, is bringing back somebody that we know from the Infinity Saga, right? We knew him as Falcon from the Infinity Saga, but you may not know she in the 10 rings or whatever. So yeah, I think this is one of those big tie-in kind of movies. And I agree that this was a lot of tie-in. This was a little bit too much tie-in for me. But it's actually bringing in some things, that they hadn't talked about yet, because they hadn't really they brought some of X-Men in, but Eternals, people pretty much paying that movie. So, there's that. So, Marcie, what did you want to say about the bringing everything in and the tie-in discussion?
So I was gonna say, I think that for me, while I appreciate the tie-ins, I do think that I wish that we had spent more time on Captain America in Captain America. Like I thought that the
Yes.
part of the story that was new Captain America, old Captain America, and even the resolution of that part, that I think that storyline was great. And I wish we had had time to flesh that out more. I wish we had time to see him in this transition. I wish we had had more time to see him, as you said, doing an amazing things. But I think at the second half of the movie, it was no longer really about him anymore, because then we had to go into the diplomacy and Harrison Ford trying to hold himself together, and then the island and all of that became somebody else's story, really, truthfully. And then at the end, he comes back and helps save the day. But I feel like I wish that we had spent more time on him, on the movie being Captain America's movie, and not. I felt like it was Red Hulk and Captain America.
Yeah,
I felt
because
like it was someone else and Captain America. I don't know that I felt, and I don't know necessarily that I even understood the correlation to the Brave New World. Like I'm not even sure that I fully
what that
understood
means.
what that meant. Like why was
Yeah.
that the tagline for this one as opposed to something like, I don't know that I know what that meant figuratively, unless it was canon and that's it. It means something in the moving on of the universes or something. But I didn't understand why Brave New World was the name
Like,
of
what did that have to do with it?
what did it have, like I didn't know. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit there. So yeah, other than the tie-in kind of feeling that I was getting, which that to me signaled part of Brave New World, and then the fact that they're embracing, but see, to me, again, Sam Wilson is Captain America at this point. So to me, Brave New World started at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's when the Brave New World started for me. If you're focusing on Captain America as a character, but Perry, what are your thoughts on this? And I think what it is we're tripped up about the story and about how this all fits in with maybe what we know and maybe what we don't know, but how this all fits in with the comics. Yeah, it feels like there's some things missing and I don't know what they are. And can you help us?
Well, I guess I'm not sure exactly what you guys are specifically missing. So if you guys have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. The tie-in aspect, I think with the Marvels, I thought the tie-in aspect made a lot of sense because you have these three characters who are from these three different properties and you're bringing them, but they all have this connection to each other somehow. So you're bringing them all together in this one movie. So I thought that made a lot of sense. So you're bringing in Kamala Khan from Ms. Marvel, you're bringing in, Carol from Captain Marvel, and you're bringing in, oh God, how am I blanking on her name now? Monica from WandaVision.
Yes.
Monica Rambeau,
And, Monica and Carol have this existing relationship, and then you have Kamala, who is an admirer of Carol. So bringing the three of them together in one movie, that made a lot of sense as a tie-in. That felt like a really organic tie-in. For this one, the Eternal stuff, that felt like an organic tie-in because if you're going to be dealing with geopolitical ramifications, a Captain America movie is the best place to do that. The Red Hulk stuff and the leader, I think that stuff would have been better reserved for if they could work it out with Universal to do another Hulk movie. And I feel like you can have Ross as the president, you can have Stearns manipulating him, all that is fine, but I think you should have had that kind of more in the background, and the focus should have been what it was originally supposed to be, which is on the Serpent Society. Giancarlo Esposito's character, Sidewinder. He's the leader of the Serpent Society.
And maybe that's why I got confused. That's what I thought I was watching, but then that's not what I was watching.
That was part of the. That's the missing part for me.
Yeah,
that was part of the reshoots. They were originally more. They were supposed to have originally supposed to have more of the Serpent Society. There were supposed to be more members. So there are a few other actors who were actually cast, and they didn't appear in the movie. Like their scenes were cut out. And just looking through here, I'll try and find exactly who it is, but there were at least 2 other characters from the Serpent Society who were supposed to be in this movie, and they were supposed to have been outfitted with like cybernetic enhancements or something from the leader, which is supposed to have been like why they would have been including. There's like a wrestler was supposed to be one of them. There was another actress who was supposed to be in it too, and they ended up being cut out in the reshoot, and they focused more on. And honestly, my biggest issue with this movie was the Red Hulk thing. I'm fine with using the Red Hulk, but I feel like that should not have been the focus of all the marketing. I feel like that was something that you could have done all the marketing and kept the Red Hulk out of it. And then in the movie, when that scene happens, that would have been a massive shocker. And I feel like it would have worked a lot better that way. And I feel like I think Marvel got very nervous about this movie, and they were worried because Falcon and the Winter Soldier got kind of a mixed reception, and also with all the controversy, which I think is complete nonsense anyway, but but with all the controversy around a black Captain America and all that kind of garbage. And so then I feel like they got cold feet, and they're like, well, we have to have something big that's going to sell this. They decided, to show the Red Hulk stuff in it. And I feel like that was a mistake for the expectation setting of this film. So yeah, that's kind of like those are my big things about it. And the tie-in stuff as a tie-in works great, but I feel like all the Incredible Hulk tie-in stuff, we could have shifted some of that over into another Hulk movie instead and focused more on to what Marcie was saying about the Brave New World aspect. It's supposed to be the fact that you've got this mad scramble for the adamantium, and the adamantium is shifting these world alliances. That's what it's supposed to be about. But that kind of gets a little bit lost in the third act when you focus more on the Hulk
very
stuff.
lost. That's
Thank
very.
you. That makes more sense. That's where.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. All my questions are now answered. Okay. And 2.
That's why I'm here.
Yes, that's why. That is why you're here, Mary. Let's be honest. That is why you're here. And 2, it makes. Because I will say this about the Eternals, all right? Because everybody's dogged the Eternals. Everybody's talk crap about them. I did not like that movie. It does not mean that I did not like the whole story around it and some of those characters. The characters in the Eternals, you know what I think? I really think that the Eternals probably would have benefited from a limited series, kind of like a WandaVision kind of thing, where we could actually see the characters, because some of the Eternals are really they're Marvel gold. They're sarcastic, funny. They have backstories, and some of the actors that are playing them, I mean, they're doing a good job here. We would love to have seen this a little bit more. But the thing is, you probably got, I'm going to say 3 people, if I remember correctly, who have any type of name recognition. Maybe 2. Who have any type of name recognition in the Eternals as actors. So you're focusing on them when actually some of the other characters were just so much more interesting in the Eternals. And I feel like to endear us to the characters, they probably should have given them a limited series, like a Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of thing, instead of giving them this one huge movie that we were trying to follow all these people, and we're trying to follow this story, and not all of us are like Perry and read the comics and know who these characters are to begin with. And as you realize it, after I finished watching the Eternals, I realized, you know what? And at that point, I had been through the Marvel traveling museum exhibit that they have going all over the world. And there's a section in there about Eternals, and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, we really need to know more about these characters, especially if they're connecting all the other stories, or they could be connecting all the other stories. I don't know. I don't read the comics. But it seems like these are characters that could kind of connect all the other stories that we know. They could connect the X-Men to it. They could connect the Avengers. They could connect all the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, they connect all the other characters in this Marvel universe because they are the Eternals. Maybe they do that in the comics. I don't know, but it seems like there was so much more potential there for somebody who doesn't read the comics. And instead, you gave them this big, long movie with this thing coming out of the earth that we don't exactly all understand. Marcie.
Speaking of potential, I really felt like we lost a lot because we didn't get to see as much of Joaquin as the Falcon apprentice. Like, I'm
Yes.
wondering if there's some more scenes of him on the cutting room floor as well, because I feel like that was something else that needed to be further in this story where it made sense to further it, where we didn't get to see as much. I feel like what I saw of him I really liked, but I feel like there was room, and maybe to your point earlier, Perry, that because there wasn't as much about the Serpent Society, then maybe that's a lot of where the rest of his interaction with the story would have been.
Yeah.
But I think there was another place where I feel like there was a missed opportunity for a character's evolution in a way that was missed in the storytelling. I mean, what we saw was great, but it was really just snippets, and they were really fast. They were all in the fast parts where you didn't really get the. Yeah, I feel like there was a missed opportunity there when you're talking about what could have been, maybe should have been. I think he was also a missed opportunity in that same space to show some stretch.
Yeah. And could also elaborate more specifically on the Captain America story, right? Because Captain America starts off as he's Falcon before
Right.
that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Staci, what are you thinking about all of this discussion and about tie-ins and everything?
About, like I said, the characters that should have had to be more screen time. Because when I was first watching it, and I was like, okay, I gotta watch this movie for Yvonne because I'm gonna be on the podcast. And then I see Esposito, I see him, and he's one of my favorite actors. And I was like, oh yes. And then it's like, that was it.
Right.
That was all that he's there for. And I was like, that's a waste. I love to see him on screen. And I love to see, and I was like, that's all you're using him for? I mean, I was just really disappointed in that. And then now that Perry said all the stuff about what we possibly think it should have been more of Serpentine Society and all that, if that was in there, I could see why he would be a bigger character. But at the same time, I see why they might, certain test audiences might not have liked it, because you have Black Captain America, and then you have him as a villain, and they were like, this is supposed to be with the new Wakanda. I'm just saying that people may have thought that. Certain people have thought that, and that's why they have changed it a bit because of that.
It's a possibility, yeah.
But to me, I think that might have been the cause of it. If now you're saying all that, because I just really didn't see, like you said, the Red Hulk as being something major in it, and I thought that would have been, to me, more of one of the, when they do the credits and then you have the scene and you see him, that to me would have been all Red Hulk could have been, because he didn't do anything really.
Right.
But if you focus more on the other, it'd have been, if we just focus on the other, it would have been, to me, a real Captain America movie about in the Brave New World there. If it really focused on the new Captain America, and then we had that Serpentine Society, and especially if you got more of Giancarlo on the phone, on the screen. On the screen.
Yeah.
I love that one time. But I think that would have been a different type of movie. Yeah. And I do wonder now what was cut. But I think because of what's going on and just how people throw fits for anything that, for like the Marvels and then the new Captain America and all that, I think they changed a lot because of possibly for that. I can't say for certain or anything like that. But now you said that, I'm like, okay, that might be the reason why they changed a lot. But
we will continue this discussion on our next episode. Make sure you're subscribed to Nerdy Romantics Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and visit nerdyromanticspodcast.com to subscribe to our newsletter, where you can get show notes directly in your inbox. Thank you for listening.